This morning, we're going to be talking about smart cities. Of course, you made the decision to come here knowing what we're going to talk about. But a lot goes around on what the buzzwords that are running around: smart cities, smart this, smart that. And I guess we have the right panelists this morning to tell us exactly what this means for the private companies that are here, what that means for your businesses, for the public servants and the public officials, what that means for efficiencies. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Professor Bruce Krog, the director of CMU Rwanda, who is going to introduce the panelists and will moderate the session. Thank you very much. Bruce.
Good morning. Our living environments are organisms, and they have always been characterized by the flow of information, the communication, the fiber that creates the environments for human beings. And smart cities, as we all know, has become the label for enabling and empowering these organisms through ICT. We do have a really terrific panel this morning to speak to the issue of how ICT can, should, and will enable the organisms that we live in and make them radically different in the future from what they are today. And today, I hope we'll also speak to why they're going to be radically better. Let me introduce our panel, and I'm going to introduce them in the order in which we're going to have them speak. Fidel Nyasaba is the mayor of Kigali. We have Steve Mutabasi, who is the acting director or head of ICT department at RDB. Shilesti Makafani is the head of government and industry relations for Ericsson for Sub-Saharan Africa. And Delano Longwe is the director of public sector Africa for Oracle. It is interesting and I think extremely well for this panel that we have a balance equally between government and private sector. So I'm anxious to hear from both sides how they are going to talk about the marriage of the private sector and the public sector in realizing our smart cities. So without taking any further time for introductions, we're going to dive into the talks. We're going to ask each panelist to speak briefly to the issue of smart cities from their perspective. We want this to be a discussion and dialogue, so we're going to talk a little among ourselves, and then we'll turn it over to you, the audience, to take the lead in the direction that you'd like the discussion to go. So, Fidel, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Prof. When we talk about smart cities, we refer at the same time at what we call intelligent cities or digital cities. And this is in line with the ability of those cities to provide services via digital communication. Like in administration of a local government, administration of public services, to offer online services that were provided offline. And at the same time, organizing people to create new products, to create businesses taking advantage of use of ICTs. As I highlighted earlier on, upstairs. In Kigali, we have started this journey. We have achieved some milestones which are encouraging and actually giving appetite to pursue the journey. These are like the provision of broadband Wi-Fi, internet access, starting by public places where a big number of people are gathering, in commercial complexes, bus parks. In effect, even in some buses we have started. You can chat freely when you are traveling, when you are commuting in the city, in the new modern big buses. People can access their Twitter, they can go Facebook, especially young people, they are enjoying it. Hotels and restaurants, as I said, I consider IT as, of course, a productive industry, but as a service provider, the IT industry, this service of internet we are getting from this industry, it is abnormal to realize that in some places where you go, you should either pay separately the bill for internet, or you should negotiate to have a coupon of password. But you never negotiate to get to have water, as I said, in bathroom. You never negotiate to have the light when you are in your room or in the bar. This is a basic service. It is a utility like those two others. This is what we are encouraging, where we are encouraging people to actively use and take advantage of this service. And in fact, at the end, it will be for the good of the business. It contributes to the customer care service. The automation of some basic services needed by the public outside there, like the navigation system. Now we have put our city street addressing online. We are taking advantage of the connectivity in every corner of the city. You can access easily the street addressing of the city online using the simple devices like mobile phones. We embarked in modernizing our public transport, where from the airport you should not negotiate with the taxi driver about the price. This is a simple thing to have the tax meter and be able to check your bill and to align it with your budget when you are traveling in small taxis here in the city. And of course, moving to the e-ticketing for buses in public transport. Electronic payments have transformed life in the city. I remember the hard days where people were obliged to go to line to the water and electricity supply agents to pay the bill. We improved. We have agents in charge of supplying water and electricity with the cash power for electricity. But in the past, people were obliged to go to line up there also to get the coupon of some unit they are buying. But now, you don't have to suffer. You are outside Kigali. They call you, they inform you that the electricity is, your cash power is empty. You send the SMS and you fill. And you pay. And you have the electricity where you are sitting. This is really a testimony of how ICT can make business, can make smartness, and can ease life in a city like the capital city. I was talking about the construction permitting. Before we introduced the MIS in construction permitting, there was a phenomenon of dossiers of people missing all the time. And actually, it was a source of corruption. No transparency. You make your application for construction permit, the following day you come back, they tell you, we don't fund your application. We don't fund your drawings. But in our days, you submit, you apply, you follow how they review your application, the comments, whatever you want to update, you do it, and there is traceability, there is transparency, there is less physical contact. When you have physical contact with those professionals dealing with services much needed like construction permitting, and services needed by people with money, because if you want to build a house, that it means you have money. This is where people start to say, okay, please, can I get it in a few days and we negotiate? But with that, there's no way. And the supervisor, up to the mayor himself, you can see how applications are being processed, how people are getting feedbacks, which application is delaying. This has changed enormously in governance, and of course, in service delivery. So the Wi-Fi, I said, this should go with, let me be brief, this should go with the continuous effort in IT literacy. To get more people outside there on the village being able to take advantage of those services. People in the village being able to pay their taxes. Now all villages are being connected to electricity, being able to use those devices to get electricity. IT literacy is very important to be able to really to reach the good use of smartness in the cities. Also, change of mindset. Awareness, increasing awareness. To have a big number of population using those facilities offered to them. So, let me wind up here because earlier on upstairs I have tried to elaborate more, and I hand over to the rest of the panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think you laid out sufficient number of issues for us to discuss the rest of the morning. So, Stephen Mabasi, please.
Thank you, Bruce. And once again, welcome everybody. So, smart cities. As the mayor puts it, of course, he runs this city. So, he knows what makes it easier for him to run this city. And he has explained very well the things he finds, the key things that he finds absolutely important to get this city to function the way he would like. But let me just take a view, perhaps relating it back to history. I mean, first question you might ask is, what is a city anyway? To me, a city is a community. It's a community of people. Now, whether it's smart or not, it's a community of people. And what is it doing? It's providing services to its own people, but in general, it's a commercial hub. Historically, cities have always been commercial hubs for larger communities. So, as we talk about a developing country, or countries developing at the kind of rate that is happening in Africa, you have to say, why should we have smart cities? If you want to develop very quickly, you must have the elements that enable you to develop quickly. And what are those elements? The ability to organize yourself in a highly efficient way so that you can conduct business efficiently. So let me go backwards then. I mean, examples in history are quite clear to everybody. But let's just go back a little bit and try and structure this whole thing. A city, it's a community. What makes it smart? It's smart if it can do what cities do more efficiently than other cities. What do cities do? They innovate. They do business innovatively. They supply services to others much more efficiently than other cities, if they're to be considered smart and successful. Any historically successful city did that very well. So a smart city of today has to be highly innovative. Now, what enables a city to be highly innovative? What do you really need to make that spark, to create that spark and enable it to do that? It has to have the right services. Interestingly enough, for the city to have smart services, it has to have the innovation capability to create those services in the first place. But the other thing that makes those services smart is having almost ubiquitous connectivity between services and the actual community that uses them. Okay? So it has to have smart connectivity between services and the users of those services. I think you can sense that from what the Honorable Mayor was saying before. That's the kind of city he wants. A city that is highly innovative in every way, including technical and commercial, and one that can use that innovation to create smart services when they're needed, to improve them when they need improvement, and to constantly be pushing forward, pushing the barrier forward. So, what makes a service useful? A service is useful if it has the right information that gives it the usefulness. Okay? So a smart city has a pyramid of things that makes it smart. And right at the bottom of it is very smart information. So, a highly connected city with people innovating in all sorts of directions, able to serve themselves in terms of what they need, but also serve other communities, and that's commerce, smart commercial activity, but all built on highly connected, smart information. And where does information come from? It comes from data. Where does a smart city get that data from? It gets it from being highly connected between what people do, and the processes they use to do those things. I'm probably confusing everybody, but it's an interesting web of complexity that has to be stretched and aligned properly in order to create a smart city. So at the end of the day, as a resident of the city, you say, I've got Wi-Fi. How does that happen? It happens through that value chain of connectivity, if you like. Why do you need Wi-Fi? You need your people to be highly connected, and so on and so forth. So the smart cities, the kind of smart city our mayor here wants to create is at the top end at the high end of the pyramid, in this country anyway. Let me give you an example of other forms of cities that would also make Kigali a very successful city from a commercial point of view. Umudugudu is actually a city. Okay? Now, if you've been to the Western Province, where, and I use this example very often, so those of you who've heard me talk about it, please just bear with me. People used to live X meters apart in their own little plots of land with no services, no water, no electricity or anything. And they couldn't afford to send their kids to school. They couldn't afford to take them to hospital when they needed to go to hospital because they never had any money. So, effectively, what this country, this government, the leadership in this country did was create the semblance of a city out there in the village. It used information and knowledge to create a whole new system for these people to be able to get money in their pockets. What's that system? It told a farmer, but say 10 farmers, come and live in this little city. We will help you build, Umudugudu. We're going to ask you to only produce one crop. And we're going to help you use the information. We'll pay for it. Get scientists to come and look at what your land is capable of producing. Just produce that, nothing else. Of course, there was resistance, but eventually they did it. Then it said, we'll create a market on top of this production capability that you've got as now a little city, Umudugudu. That market will buy from you whatever you produce, keep what you need, and everything else you need, buy from the others, but with money. Don't barter. Use your money to buy. And what's left in your pocket, you can pay your school fees, you can buy shoes, you can buy clothes, and so on. So that simplest form of a city in this country used innovation. It's created based on innovation, on information used to actually create the semblance of a city. Because remember, cities happened for people to come and innovate and create products and be able to trade with other people. So we've got quite a few cities in this country apart from Kigali. And the idea was to make it smart enough to enable people to have money in their pockets without expending more effort than they ever did when they were planting 10 different crops. But now in the form of a city, of a kind of lowest form of a city, they can now innovate, use information smartly, collaborate, and trade with other people because they now have currency to trade. So going from the mayor's city here in Kigali to the lowest kind of level of a city we have in this country, Umudugudu, you can see that the principle is the same. Okay? A highly innovative society, group, community of people coming together to work together to create a community with smartness to be able to innovate, create business opportunities, and services to serve themselves as well as supporting their business opportunities going with other communities, but all based on high level of connectivity, high level of innovation. So that's what I think a smart city is for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we leave government and go to the private sector, let me pose a question. Maybe both of you can say something to this. One of the difficulties, as we all know with government and any organizations, is that innovations and projects can lead to stovepiping. You have one project that is doing something very interesting in this area, and now when we come to this area of leveraging data to get information, we of course realize that there's some common data that multiple services should be leveraging. So I'd be interested in hearing, first of all, your general perspective on that, and this kind of connects to what's happening upstairs, but also what are you doing here in Kigali and Rwanda in general to try to leverage the data and information across sectors, across infrastructures, so that you're really getting the most out of the availability and the acquisition of the data? Your comments I'd be interested in. Mayor?
Thank you. Of course, the interest in having data itself mobilizes people to avail data and to get data. In this world, in whatever we are doing, we live with data. We need data. As public service providers, we need data. To make a right decision, we need data. The population we are serving, because we have to be connected to people to have those data. They need services. They want to be served in a participatory manner, of course. It is easy when you need each other. Data are not something imported. They are not forged. It is about collecting information from where they are. And when you are connected through the normal channels and the structures of our administration up to grassroots, it is easy to get any information, any data you want. And now, using the IT tools, it is the business to get them in a smart way, and of course, to get them correctly. When I need any data from the village, it is sent electronically. You get it like it is from the source. With IT solutions, you consolidate, but you consolidate what is original. Instead of sending by a written report or just talking where they can be changed in the middle of the way. So the structures we have here connect the people, supported by the IT tools, are, on my view, enough supportive to get any data and to correct any data we need here.
Thanks, Bruce. Look, I'll just add a few examples to what the mayor just said, but more perhaps in a futuristic way. Recently, we visited your team, Mayor, wanting to look at possibilities of what kind of immediate services you would like to turn into smart services within the city. And we got a list, quite a substantial list. We ended up looking at transport. Why did transport, I mean, there are economic reasons and your priorities on transport, you gave us the priorities. But what we thought could be done to turn that into a smart transport system using data and information was to make sure that every bus and those stations, you know, those connection points within the city. Somebody help me with the words, but you know what I mean. No, there are certain nodes in the city where buses meet, okay, as opposed to the bus stops that might be on the same route. Okay, we agreed that to turn it into transport, a smart transport system, we needed to make all those junction points part of a connected network, that information, whatever was happening at one point, we needed to be visible elsewhere in order to enable, for instance, somebody to schedule more buses in one direction as opposed to the other. The buses themselves needed to be highly connected so that if a bus was half a kilometer away, you would know that it was half a kilometer away. So that's a way of embedding smart services in a process, this process being transportation of people and goods, or people in this case, from point A to point B. Linked to that is, as you know, we've got a national strategy for creating a logistics system in the country. And it's very, of course, very centered around Kigali. Anything in this country, if you think of it in a commercial sense, is centered around Kigali. But we want to make that smart by making sure that all the hubs associated with it are smart in the sense that they're connected so that we know what's happening at each point. And I'm competing here, am I? And the vehicles that transport the goods, these are heavy goods, are embedded with smart devices, so that you actually know, you can see the entire system operating in a live way. You could almost put it on a screen and you know what's going on. So that's just a couple of examples in the same kind of area, transportation and logistics, where ICT can help change an otherwise inefficient system to what we now call a smart system.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go on and hear from the private sector. Shilasi, why don't you go ahead and speak next and give us some perspective from Ericsson.
Good. Thanks very much for this opportunity and a very interesting topic. Let me just maybe say one or two things for people to put perspective of Ericsson. Ericsson is a leader in the mobility, provision of mobility infrastructure. It's the #1 in the operation and business support systems. And also we are on the top 5 software provider. So we spend about $5 billion in R&D. So that you'd understand, obviously I'll talk about some of the things that relate to the smart cities. What we believe in going forward is that things are going to be connected, and I think that's what has been talked about in this conference. And then bring into the cities, we believe that it's not only now going to be about connecting people, but it's going to be about connecting devices having devices interacting with people. So that makes a very big change in terms of how people live, how people interact. I think my Mayor and Steve has talked about the definition of a smart cities, and that we have got what we call a consumer lab. From there, you look on the cities with 3 lenses. Lens number 1 being about the economic growth, being an economic hub, which has been talked to. Lens number 2 being about sustainability. And then lens number 3 being about the environmental awareness. And if you look on those three lenses, you find that ICT is playing a big role in terms of developing the economy, creating a social impact, and also saving the environment. And then I'll just lash on one of the key things that has been talked about now, being the whole issue on the smart transport. We involve in some of the researches, and our researches indicates that currently, averagely around the world, people in cities spend about 2 hours and 20 minutes commuting. And then now, if you look on that 2 hours and 20 minutes in terms of commuting, if you then digitize, because some of the times it's either people travel, you don't know when the bus is going to come, you don't know when the taxi is going to come. So therefore, if you put this in a connected system, then you are able to order a taxi on the app, you know when the taxi will arrive, and also you can be able to also log in and indicate that I'm waiting on this bus, on this bus stop, I need to travel to this particular place. So when the system moves, then it's able to be efficient because it moves with the maximum it can be able to carry. So therefore you are saving environment because of then you are able to service need rather than the transport system being able to just move. And also on the other hand, you are increasing productivity because of people are able to spend time on what they are supposed to do and then be able to be available for the transport at the right time. The other area as well that we are looking at as part of our consumer lab, where we're trying to understand how people interact, how people use these different kind of services, is if you look onto an energy part as well, at which the mayor touched a bit on as well, is that going forward, Africa is one of the area where you have a lot of solar energy that you can be able to harvest. So therefore, with these smart cities, where you get interconnected community, there you could be able to obviously intelligently, when you mine the information, be able to know how much power is being used, where, and then you can be able to inform the generation and say, only generate what is required. And also if people harvest power, then you get information and say, there is enough power harvested from the sun. Then why don't you take that power back and supply the industries during the day, because people are not at home, they are at work during that part of the day. So I think there is a lot that is coming up in terms of the smart cities, and for us as a company, we're seeing big opportunities, not only on the big infrastructure provision, but I think also on the innovation that entrepreneurs are bringing in terms of solving different kinds of problems. And I just want to highlight 2 things that we have seen coming out in this continent, which we are really very highly proud of. We've seen some of the team developing in Ghana, where you can be able to, when you land, be able to get then, once you download that app, you know what you're going to be able to pay, what are the route that the taxi must take, so that if you're not familiar with the environment, it creates you a bit safe to be able to move and know that I've got the right taxi, I'm paying the right tariff, I'm moving to the right place. The other one, as part of the city as well, is that what we have seen the Senegalese team did from a Dakar perspective is that they have developed an innovation where you could be able to, when you find that there's a bit of a rubbish dump, you can just take a photo, then load it into the app, it connects with the GPS, and then from there it delivers that information to the city, and then it's for the city now to be able to react before that dump is even, it's even beyond that. What is interesting now, Joburg, more or less with that, is that they've even set up time. They're using it for potholes, but they've even set up time commitment that when they see the potholes, they will be able to respond to a particular time to be able to fill up those potholes. So that is really what this smart cities means, increasing the level of interconnection, having data that you can be able to mine, and then be able to respond immediately to the challenges and opportunities that comes out as a result of this connected world and this connected community.
Thank you very much. Let's go ahead and hear an Oracle perspective from Delano.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Firstly, I would like to take this opportunity on behalf of the Oracle Corporation to thank His Excellency Paul Kagame, the President of Rwanda, for inviting Oracle to Smart Rwanda. I would also like to just take this opportunity to thank the Honorable Minister for ICT, Philbert, for inviting us to grace this occasion, and also to thank the Mayor of the city of Kigali for hosting us in now what has been termed by the ITU President as the cleanest city in the world. Thank you very much. And in talking about smart cities, I think this is a very engaging conversation that we're having up here. I enjoy this conversation because it addresses the future of Africa. And a smart Africa is what is going to be created out of smart Rwandas, out of smart Burkina Fasos, out of smart Ugandas and smart Kenyas. This is what is going to build up a smart Africa. It's the little pieces of the puzzle that build the big picture. And from an Oracle perspective, we look at this in three ways. There are really three key areas that we talk about when we talk about smart cities. We look first of all at one of the things that the mayor was talking about, the citizens. Because cities without citizens are not cities at all. There's some life that is hosted in these cities. And we look at what is the empowerment, what is the engagement from the city in order to empower those citizens to enjoy the life in the cities where they live. And in that case, we call it interaction. So what is the interaction? That's one key piece of the puzzle. We look at interaction. The next layer we look at is, and it's already been talked about, and I thank the mayor for doing a good job in terms of the integration of services. And of course, the central government has also done a good job in laying out fiber. We look at integration. And how is this all getting integrated? And how is this harmonizing to work together? And last but not least, we look at the end at exchange. And it's not just an ordinary exchange. It's an exchange where we now look at the city as almost a living being, where because of the Internet of Things, we are now not talking about just the internet, but the Internet of Things. And I think the real reason why us IT geeks started calling them things is because we didn't know how to describe them. So we just said it's an Internet of Things. There are so many things, so we'll just call this the Internet of Things. Our things are now talking back to us. So when the mayor mentions about the virtual process for construction, those gentlemen who receive that permit and move to the field, the actual equipment is able to talk back to the project manager to tell him how efficient his project is. And that information is collated, and somebody looking at a simple dashboard can make key decisions to save money, to expedite, and to put the correct pressures in the right directions. That's why we term the phrase, or we coin the phrase, the Internet of Things. But that is also growing and moving into what we call big data. Because if we look at that small object and say, for example, all of a sudden, because this process is now so simple, and because the economy is growing, now we have 4,000 people who are building this month, and all that information is suddenly being gathered. If it's only being shared by that particular project team, it doesn't really benefit the whole community. So perhaps the city of Kigali needs to look at an information repository where best practices are captured, and people will know that, you know, when we were digging on this particular area, the excavation using this particular equipment, actually rather than you going through that process and having this problem, you can correct and leapfrog the problems. So we're actually looking at a repository. When we talk about smart city, we're looking at an information repository that is a layer. Think of it like a river underneath the entire city that is carrying anonymized information, but that can be made available to people who need that information in order for them to make the correct decisions and not to have to make the mistakes of the past. Now, in a broad sense, I've painted a picture of the smart city that we talk about in a very generic terminology. But if we look at the smart cities around the world, and I think one of the reasons we're having this forum and this session with our moderator here is to try and learn from what are the distinct examples around the continent as well as around the world that we can take back with us and say, look, actually this might be a piece that I can pull and deploy over here. Last week I was in Utrecht and in the Netherlands, and Utrecht is a very interesting city because Utrecht is the city in the world that has the largest bicycle population. They have developed to such an extent that it is easier for them to ride around on bicycles, and you see all kinds of bicycles carrying all manner of things, from the pizza delivery bicycles to the executive flying along on her bicycle, talking with one hand on her mobile phone. I don't know if it's legal though. I even had the opportunity to witness, Mayor, a bicycle accident. And all the other bicycles actually stopped so that they could assist the injured. Fortunately, because it was bicycles, there was just a few bruises. But Utrecht is actually going to be going into the Guinness Book of World Records probably next year because they're developing one single parking for 25,000 bicycles. That is just to give you a kind of a picture of what happens in advanced cities. At some point in time, people shift gear. They say, you know, I'm not going to waste time in traffic. The traffic is organized. The people are very, very disciplined. And there is a different level of discipline. Once we start having smart cities, the discipline levels go up because people are not governed by people. In Kenya, we have traffic police. And you see the behavior is determined on the roads, the behavior of cars driving on the roads is determined by the man or the woman standing on the road in a police uniform, because people start driving very carefully when they see them, and then they don't drive carefully. One young Kenyan got appointed as an executive and moved to Dubai a few years ago. And when he moved to Dubai, he decided, you know what? He drove around, he bought a very big four-wheel drive car, because he was now in his point of self-actualization, and he began to drive around the city of Dubai. And then he looked around and he said, there are no traffic policemen. And so he decided that, you know, it's a bit hard and it's taking a long time to find a parking, but since there are no policemen, I'll just park wherever I feel like, you know, like back in Kenya, just park the car wherever I feel like. I can speed, there's nobody watching. I can speed as fast as I want. And nobody disturbed him. And he was absolutely happy. A year later, when he went to renew his road license, Mayor, the young gentleman reached to the counter. They're not as advanced as Kigali. They physically have to go and pay. They reached the counter and went to pay for his annual renewal of road license, and they presented him with a bill with a history of every single infringement that he had ever been involved in with pictographical evidence. And the bill was so high, they told him, it's okay, we don't mind, just leave your four-wheel drive car there, it's going to pay for the bill. So needless to say, that young man learned a lesson. And I think the lesson that we can learn from this model of smart cities is that it is possible for you to have a situation where you build models that inform the behavior of the people. And in smart cities, we'll see more and more of that. As cities become more interconnected and become more alive, there's going to be an archive. This again helps in terms of security. In Africa, we have a very big threat in terms of terror. I'm based out of the city of Nairobi, covering the continent, and this has been one of the challenges. But smart cities are cities that have what we call very discrete systems in place in order to alleviate, in a proactive way, things like terror. So from an Oracle perspective, we have what we call a city platform, which is very useful for that. But going back again to the main topic, which is the smart cities, a few examples. In Kenya, for example, there's Konza, which is a technology city, which we're expecting to be built in the next few years, about 60 kilometers south of the city of Nairobi. And the total cost of that particular project initially was estimated at $700 million. And when we talk about the cost of a smart city, if you're building a greenfield city, we then begin to see a very different scenario when it comes to looking at financial models. So what kind of financial models do we need if we're going to build a greenfield city, a city where there is nothing in existence before? And how then do we borrow from good examples that are working like Kigali and leverage these across the continent? And one of the reasons why we are seeing cities like Konza being developed is what we call rapid urbanization. And probably, Mayor, I'm not sure, but you may be feeling some of these pressures of urbanization, where people are really coming in from the rural areas to the city centers to try and find a living and create a living. In Kenya, in Nairobi, we have about 3.5 million people who sleep in the city of Nairobi at night, and approximately 8 million people during the day. So the traffic is, let's just say the traffic is quite high in the city of Nairobi. One organization measured and said it's the fourth most painful city for traffic pain index in the world. So then it means that there's a pressure now to have cities around, satellite cities. And this is going to be the trend going forwards. Right now we have several projects in Kenya that we have that are being called smart cities. We have Garden City, we have Two River City, we have Tatu City, which is being developed by a group of financiers from Europe, and that costs about $200 million US. So there's a cost to this, and there's a need for the private sector and the public sector to engage to radically transform our communities, and this is actual business. So technology, I did hear a question in the last session that we heard upstairs that said, if technology is coming and we're getting all this automation, it means jobs will go away. I would beg to differ. I would actually say, because of technologies, we're actually going to have new and more interesting types of jobs coming up. But without, being too overbearing on the issue of smart cities and delving too much into it, I think at this juncture I'll pause and hand over back to the moderator. In a nutshell, it's not just in Kenya. We have smart cities in Egypt that are going to be coming up, smart cities in Democratic Republic of Congo. The same European investors that are planning to deploy a satellite city in Nairobi do have plans already for Rwanda. We have one in Ghana that's very well known, and it's an IT city. They call it an IT city. And we have a couple of other models. One very unique model is an agricultural city, where somebody has taken up a 5,000-acre piece of land and is going to be doing something like what my fellow panelist over here was talking about, where the type of crop that is going to be grown is going to be prescribed. And not only that, but the manufacturing process for that crop will happen right on the farm. It's not going to be exported in order for it to be processed. I'm not sure if you're aware that, for example, a lot of Africa's produce tends to go out in raw material, and if we bring the value chain back in terms of the cities, then there's great value that is retained. Taxes are paid at a higher level, and there's more that's available to be delivered. So there's actually even an agricultural city, a smart city built around the theme of agriculture. So we'll see quite a lot of models coming up across the African continent. It is a very exciting time to be alive. But I would also pose this to our audience here today, that, the description of the city fathers, we always hear this phrase, city fathers, city fathers. The city fathers of tomorrow's smart cities are you and I sitting here today. We are the city fathers that will have to architect and dictate the course for cities that will outlive us. And 100, 200 years from today, we will be, our children's children will be having a discussion about what we did. So we have to plan carefully. When we talk about cities and growth and the efficiency of cities, which is a very important word, we have to think about the future, not only about what is within our lifetimes, but what will actually outlive us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Both of our industry speakers, I think, have done a good job, on the one hand, giving us exciting examples and inspiring examples of technologies that are being applied and are emerging. But also, thank you for bringing up the whole issue of the business case for all of this, because it's not free. And it was good to hear cases where we need to think about how do you make this sustainable. And part of the whole point is maybe there's some money flowing that makes the difference in doing this. But I want to open up to the audience now. We have someone with a microphone. And please go ahead, state your question. If you want to direct it to a particular panelist, that's fine. Or we can ask the panelists in general. So here we go, right here. And if there's another microphone, we have some other hands that went up there. Here. Okay, go ahead then, please.
Thank you very much indeed. My name is Silo Kanamgire. I am a Rwandan. First of all, I would like to thank our Honorable Mayor of the City of Kigali for his leadership. Once you want to meet him, you just send an SMS to him. He answers you and tells you whether he is busy or not. That is, first of all, his goodship. 2, he has said about Kigali smart transport is smart, if I am not mistaken. But now, what I want to quote that is, Kigali has a very, very good future to be a very good smart city in the region where we are. And if I am not mistaken, I heard that Kigali City Council has an policy of using drip irrigation during the dry season. That one, it will continue to make Kigali to be very, very beautiful city than other cities in the region. So I want to continue to thank for our good leadership to make sure that our city will be known in Africa, even in the around the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So let me just make a clarification. Sorry, Bruce. We're finishing in very few minutes. We don't have a lot of time. So when you have the microphone, go straight to the question and make it really very precise. Thanks.
Okay, we'll take this one, and then the woman in the back, please. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate, like many, the efforts taken by Rwanda, championing many initiatives. I wanted to ask, maybe the mayor of Kigali will throw in some, like the role of CCTV cameras in contributing to smart cities, and if he can be specific on Kigali. Thanks.
Okay, so the question is the role of the smart cities.
No, CCTV cameras.
Oh, CCTV, okay.
Yes.
So please, let's get one more question here, and then we'll go ahead and respond to the comments. Back in the back, the woman in the back. I saw her hand first, so I'm going to get her on.
Thank you. My question goes straight to the mayor of the Kigali city. I'm so proud of being part of Rwanda, being the best, cleanest city in the world. But I would like to know what are the initiatives in place to take care of the e-waste management initiative in place. Like if I have an iPad or a phone or a laptop or a computer, when it's scrapped, I need to get rid of it. Where do I put that? What is in place? Maybe we can learn from our panelists what they are doing in their country. Thank you very much.
Okay, very good. Let's go ahead and respond to these. Honorable Mayor, people want to hear from you.
So, thank you for the comment from the first one. So he wants us to make Kigali the excellent city. Of course, in our master plan, we want the city of Kigali to be the center of excellence in urban planning in Africa. And when you talk about urban planning as an urban area, because it's a matter of reorganization of the society, this is what you call urban planning, and this is finally what is a city. It's the organization of the society, the community. So, this is what we plan to achieve, and we will need contribution of the leadership, private sector, the population, yourself. So let's take together the journey. So, CCTV cameras, of course, starting by the example stated by my colleague here in the panel. What happened to the gentleman to discipline him? That was the result of the CCTV cameras. Here we have CCTV camera in this room. So it will help us to know how we have been behaving in this session. So outside there, for some key roads, we have already started to introduce CCTV cameras. And we plan to continue to have the whole city, the network on the CCTV camera system, which is really very helpful in many aspects: security, surveillance, management, urban management. CCTV camera is a key tool. And thank you for raising it, and thank you for pointing it as a priority for urban management. So, the e-waste management, I think the question was not addressed necessarily to the mayor, to the panelists. Yeah. of course, it may be a challenge. And if Africa does not pay attention, it may become a dumping site for electronics. I want to congratulate the efforts made by our institutions here, like the Rwanda Standards Board, to make sure that electronics being imported here in Rwanda meets standards, are new, and good to be used. This is the good starting point. Not to start by already the West, but starting by importing, having here in place electronics to be used and to last for long. And the disposal of it, we are combining it, not only the e-waste, I know e-waste is a challenge, but the solid waste in general is a challenge, and it can become an opportunity. So we are working actively to make the solid waste productive, including the electronics. We expect to have some investors. We are working on a good project to have energy from waste. And we realize that even electronics, even hazard, whatever, there are some technologies outside there which can convert them into energy. Those we no longer need for recycling. We can convert them in energy we need outside here and make good disposal of them. But maybe my colleagues can add. For me, I will produce energy from them, combined with other solid waste.
Thank you. Just to add to the mayor's comment on e-waste, I'm sure you realize that e-waste is a national priority in this country, and therefore has national policy associated with it. Now, while I can't go into the exact details, but I know that the Minister of ICT, Youth and ICT, has been working and is continuing to push policy-driven solutions for managing e-waste across the whole country. So maybe if you really want to follow it a bit more, you can contact the Minister of Youth and ICT. But it's a national thing. It's not just a city thing.
I would like to see if we can get 2 more quick questions in. So who has the microphone?
We're so bad on time.
So we're very tight on time. If you have your hand, only have your hand up if you're going to just ask a direct question, okay? If you're, no speeches, please. Go ahead. Who are you going to? Okay.
Thank you very much. One of the presenters in defining the smart cities equated it almost to communities. He said the smart city will not exist if there are no communities. Here I'm seeking to understand, because there are 2 concepts that were mentioned, and this is an open question to any one of you. When we talk of smart cities and smart communities, do we mean one and the same thing? Where do they mean the same, and where do they differ? That's one. Secondly, another quick question addressed to the mayor. In his opening remarks, he talked about, he wondered loudly why we should be paying for services in the hotel, IT services, when water is free and electricity is free. I'd like to hear from him where he's going to be able to bridge the gap between the IT providers who want to return on their money, obviously want to invoice for the service they provide, and the need for the community to get that kind of free service. How are you going to bridge the gap? How are you going to square off that challenge?
Okay, so I apologize. I said 2 more questions. I didn't say how many people got to ask them, but we have our 2 questions. And we're going to jump directly to the second one, the question regarding the service. And I think we'll relegate the other question, difference between community and center cities, for your discussion at lunch. So here you are.
Maybe Honorable Gasamajera can support in responding to this one.
Thank you, thank you.
He's a good citizen of the city.
I'm indeed a good citizen of Kigali, but it is just for a very short comment I wanted to put forward. First of all, Your Worship, the Mayor, I wanted to insist on the awareness of your citizens. And, you know, awareness brings about inclusiveness, because smart cities shouldn't be just only for the converted. We are talking of conversion this morning. So this awareness is necessary. There are times we have been holding some town hall meetings, things like that, just to make people feel they are included in smart cities. Talking about inclusiveness brings also about another issue of capacity building. How do we use our smartphones? How do we use that opportunity that is offered at bus stations? How many people do use this facility? So it needs also something like capacity building. If I say so, maybe it is because I'm a professional of capacity building, but it is in some other fields, not in smart cities. Yesterday, we talked about localized content. What do you offer to citizens who enjoy the opportunity of connectivity? We have a very good connectivity. I have to thank you, Mayor. This morning I found there was broadband in front of my house, so connectivity must be 100%. But what do I find if I have that opportunity of being connected and of being offered that connectivity? What content, what is there attractive to me? Not only to me, but also to my neighbor who is hardly computer literate. Those are issues actually we should give a thought. Otherwise, talking of who pays the service, I think there are many strategies you can set forth. The providers being requested to offer promotional services, facilitations, whatever. All this, I know you are very smart at convincing people. You can convince the providers to help. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Because of time, we can discuss that at lunch, but also I'm sure the mayor will have other opportunities to speak before the public. That's what you get for being the mayor. Let's thank the whole panel. This has really been terrific. And I'm sorry to close it, but I have a man here that's telling me it's time.
Thank you very much, Bruce, for the session, and all our panelists for a wonderful discussion. We have very good news upstairs, so we'll just take a few minutes, just go up for some information, and then we'll go get our lunch. That's why we were trying to really push so that by 1 o'clock we're having lunch, and we're back at 2. Thank you very much.